He walked into the ring with the arrogance of a man who believed destiny itself bent in his favor. A taekwondo specialist, quick as lightning and sure of his superiority, he looked across at Takayuki Murasaki, the Thai boxer who, to him, seemed nothing more than a stepping stone. The opening bell rang, and at first his prophecy seemed true. The taekwondo master's kicks tore through the air with blinding speed, each strike cracking like a whip against the canvas. High kicks, spinning strikes, and side kicks kept Murasaki at bay, forcing him backward, making the ring feel like it belonged entirely to one man. The crowd gasped in awe at his athleticism, as though they were witnessing a performance rather than a fight. He toyed with his opponent, feinting, dancing, and unleashing combinations that looked impossible to counter. For a moment, Murasaki seemed trapped in a storm he couldn't escape. Yet beneath that calm, the Thai fighter was studying, searching. Every kick, every movement revealed a sliver of vulnerability, a rhythm hidden inside the chaos. The next exchanges turned from dominance into danger. The taekwondo specialist tried to reassert control with rapid-fire strikes, but Murasaki was no longer a passive target. He absorbed one shot, countered with a crushing body blow, and pressed forward like a shadow that could not be shaken. The crowd roared as the momentum began to shift. The man who once danced freely now found himself cornered, his strikes losing their sting as panic crept in. Then came the decisive moment. As the taekwondo fighter launched another desperate kick, Murasaki stepped through the storm with perfect timing. A thunderous right hand detonated against the jaw of the once confident master. His body stiffened, and in the blink of an eye, his arrogance crumbled as he collapsed to the canvas, unconscious. The arena erupted. What was meant to be an exhibition of dominance had turned into a lesson in humility. Takayuki Murasaki had not just defeated a rival, he had silenced a man who thought himself untouchable. This bout absolutely blew up the crowd's interest thanks to the massive size discrepancy between the fighters. There was a weight gap of about 10 kilograms between them, while the height difference was nearly double. The first fighter's name is Dennis, and he's a local grappling phenom despite his small frame. He always dreamed of testing his skills under MMA rules, and he finally got the call-up. This opportunity absolutely stoked him and forced him to show up and show out to prove he belonged in the cage. His opponent was a young kickboxing debutante named Alex. Anyone in his shoes would have thought this was going to be an easy first win, which is exactly why he agreed to such a wild matchup. Everyone around, including the promoters, was in total shock after what went down at the final bell. The ref checked in with both fighters to make sure they were set, and the opening bell rang. Both guys immediately started circling and finding their range, with Dennis even trying to land a strike. But he absolutely stunned the crowd when he slickly slipped a punch and dropped Alex into a knockdown with a lightning-fast double-leg takedown. However, Alex managed to snatch a neck, locking in a choke that forced Dennis to start pelting him with strikes. Alex clearly hadn't underestimated his opponent and had done his homework on the ground game, which was why he was controlling the action right now. In response, all Dennis could do was pepper him with shots. The situation looked bleak for the little guy. Everyone in the arena figured their predictions were about to come true and Dennis would be tapping out any second. The kid was scrambling desperately, shifting his center of gravity and digging body shots into his opponent. The official leaned in to get a close look at the submission, but it became clear that Dennis wasn't in as much trouble as it seemed. It looked like Alex didn't quite have the squeeze or the technique down on that choke, which was exactly why he couldn't get the finish, despite holding the position for so long. Suddenly, he sensed a lapse in his opponent's focus, dug deep, and finally popped his head out of that amateur choke. He immediately started unloading with a furious ground and pound assault. Even under that fire, Alex refused to let go, trying to tie him up to keep him from standing back up. Finally, the stalemate hit a wall, and the official stepped in to restart them in a neutral position. Once the ref reset the action, they went right back to the clinch. Alex managed to fire off a few counter strikes from his back, making sure the little guy knew he couldn't just steamroll him however he pleased. After stalling in that position for a bit, the ref stepped in to separate them because the crowd was starting to boo the lack of action. The smaller grappler began to stun everyone with his freakish strength, bulldozing his opponent across the mat. He repositioned himself and managed to snatch a front headlock, but then he eased off to catch his breath. Taking advantage of that breather, Alex snatched the neck again, locking in another submission attempt. Dennis immediately went back to hammering away with strikes, desperate to break the grip. The second he popped his head out, he went absolutely savage, unleashing a berserker barrage of shots. He kept up the brutal ground and pound until the official had seen enough and stepped in to wave off the fight.